Welcome to our 2020 Learning Outcomes reception. My name is Rebecca Tekula, and I'm the Executive Director of the Wilson Center here at Pace University. I want to thank everyone for all of your efforts to make this summer so special and meaningful, especially in the face of unprecedented times. As I've shared with a lot of our hosts and students during our site visits, in the early days of the pandemic, I thought that this whole program, after 12 years, would be out the window because we wouldn't be able to have internships. Those were my immediate thoughts. And you have all proved me very wrong. I'm very glad to say that. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Wilson Center, we were started by two donors, one being a PACE alumna herself, Helene Wilson, and her husband, Grant Wilson, who believed that in order to see our social sector, social entrepreneurship, and nonprofits do their very best, we needed to focus on training those potential future leaders of those organizations early on. Our purpose of the program is not to convince students that they should go and work in nonprofit organizations, but to expose them to the sector. And we also like that those students then continue on in their studies after their internships so that they can share their learning outcomes, like we'll hear today, with their classmates and faculty and even staff at PACE. So we're extremely proud of all of the outcomes of this program. We're extremely proud of all of you, very grateful to all of our funders, some of whom are here today. And a huge thank you to Adrienne Rivero, who you've all gotten to know very well over this summer, for stepping into the role of coordinating and managing the program this summer, and for being so flexible and adaptable and optimistic about what we could still do and the experiences that we could still create for students this summer. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Adrienne, who's going to give a little bit of a deeper background of the program. And then I'm looking forward to hearing from everyone today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you all for joining us. On behalf of the Wilson Center for Social Entrepreneurship here at PACE, I'd like to give you a warm welcome to our 2020 Learning Outcomes reception. For those of you who may not be very familiar with the work the Wilson Center does, we focus broadly on the area of social innovation, and a lot of our work is designed to share our resources and raise awareness in highlighting the abundant career opportunities that are available to students across the public and social sectors. This annual event, which is now virtual this year, and thank you for joining us this way, signifies the culmination of our 2020 Summer Funded Internship Program. Launched in 2009, the Wilson Center funds up to 15 PACE students each summer to intern at New York metro area organizations such as unique and innovative nonprofits, government agencies, public, private, and community foundations. Since its inception, more than $700,000 in funding have been dispersed to fund 158 full-time summer internships at more than 75 unique host organizations. Our program aims to serve two purposes: to encourage our students to apply what they're studying in the classroom to their real-world experiences while also earning an income, and to offer bright, highly motivated, mentored students in service of this segment of the economy, while also creating a pipeline of prospective employers for the university. The demand of our program is strong, and our applicants continue to represent a diverse array of majors and disciplines across the university. In addition to getting paid, our interns benefit from professional development opportunities, mentorships, and with their host organizations and supervisors, many of whom have been able to join us today. Also here today are funders, faculty, staff, and even alumni, and all of you who have supported these students in our program in some way. We thank you greatly for all your support, and we hope that you enjoy their presentations. Starting the presentations of the internships is Lorianne Gutierrez. Lorianne has been the intern at the 9/11 Memorial Museum, and she will tell you a little bit more about her experience shortly. Please stand by. Lorianne, if you could join us and share your screen.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen right now. Okay, I'm sorry. It says that the host disabled attendee screen sharing. Okay. I hope you can all see my screen now, and I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Lorianne Gutierrez. I am a senior undergraduate student at the Pforzheimer Honors College in Pace University in New York City. I'm set to graduate a semester early this December 2020. I'm majoring in political science and minoring in sociology, anthropology, I'm majoring in political science and I'm minoring in philosophy, women's and gender studies, and sociology, anthropology. This is my second consecutive summer in which I participated in the Wilson Center program. Last summer, I worked as a research and policy intern at the Asian American Federation. And this summer, I worked as a government community affairs intern at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. So here's a little bit about the 9/11 Memorial Museum and sort of its mission. So the Memorial and Museum is committed to remembering and honoring the nearly 3,000 victims of the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 and February 26, 1993. With the acknowledgement of the fundamental value of human life at its core, the Memorial and Museum explores the continued significance of the attacks at the local, national, and international levels. The extraordinary demonstration of compassion and leadership following the attacks are a testament to the power of community and humanity's capacity for resilience. So when researching opportunities for the summer, I knew I wanted to be a part of an organization where I could really connect with the values. So I was drawn to the goals of the 9/11 Memorial Museum, and I was curious to see how I could apply my skills and interests as a political science major to the mission of the organization. So as I mentioned, I worked as a government and community affairs intern. So as an intern in this department, I had a number of responsibilities. What struck me as interesting throughout my time at the internship was the importance of outreach and of connecting with different communities when working in a museum, which I will discuss further on the next slide. To sort of describe my roles and responsibilities, I split them up into two columns. I had daily tasks, which I was expected to do every single day. And then I had ongoing projects that span throughout the duration of the summer. So one of my daily tasks were condolence letters. Every day I had to scan through news articles and social media platforms for updates on any first responder who has passed away due to a 9/11 related illness. And then following that, I had to draft condolence letters to the families of those first responders. Another daily task was birthday roses. So I had to like rename the files of the pictures of these roses that are placed on the 9/11 memorial. Essentially the birthday rose program is it's when the 9/11 Memorial Museum recognizes the birthdays of the men, women, and children whose names are inscribed in a memorial by placing like a single white rose at each person's name. Another thing I had to do every single day was update the Razor's Edge database. So essentially that's this huge database where we keep track of family members, first responders, etc. And then I also had to respond to emails. Some of the ongoing projects, which I will elaborate upon further in the later slides, are the Survivor Tree Seedling Program and the Visionary Network. So the survival tree I'll talk about in a little bit, but the Visionary Network essentially is this program that enables people between the ages of 21 and 45 to come together through advocacy, commemoration, and engagement, so they can like learn more and deepen their connection with the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. And so we really wanted to sort of grow this program. One of the things that I was tasked with was to draft this, was to think about like LinkedIn best practices if we are going to have a much more, a greater presence on LinkedIn. And then the newsletter, so sort of just pulling together content to be included in our newsletter. So this slide, I talk about working from home because this was significant for me because I did participate in the Wilson Center program last summer. And so of course I was in person. And so this summer, I was really curious to see what from home would look like. We used Microsoft Teams, and just reflecting upon my, experience overall this summer, I'm really pleased and proud to say that it was very organized and very structured, which helped me a lot. So yeah, we used Microsoft Teams. I had up to 3 meetings in a day. So I had a morning catch up every single day with my supervisor. We had like team meetings 3 days a week, which included the entire government and community affairs department. I also had an afternoon catch up every single day. And so because of this ability to work from home and to work remotely, I was able to have to engage with rapid response communication throughout the day, and I was CC'd in virtually all email correspondence, so I could really see all the moving parts and see what everyone was doing. And I was also able to meet with people from different departments and learn about what they do, such as the legal department, etc. So I mentioned previously in the previous slide about the Survivor Tree seedling program. And so this program, essentially, a calorie pear tree became known as the Survivor Tree after and during the September 11th terrorist attacks at the World Trade Center. And so the Survivor Tree has a really symbolic meaning that emphasizes resilience and rehabilitation. And so my role with this program entailed, it was very writing enhanced and research heavy, which I actually really loved. So essentially every single year, the 9/11 Memorial and Museum picks 3 recipients where we would donate, to which we would donate Survivor Tree seedlings to. And so this year is a little bit different because of all the different things going on in 2020. So instead of just picking 3 communities, we picked 5 hospitals to recognize the ongoing importance and significance of the COVID-19 pandemic. We also chose the National Memorial for Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama, in recognition of the growing importance of and presence of the Black Lives Matter movement. And then I also did research on Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas, the Christchurch mosque shootings in New Zealand. And so once I did my research and once I drafted my letters, I did a lot of outreach. So I called the offices of the ambassadors of New Zealand and the Bahamas respectively to sort of connect with them and to ask them if they wanted to be recipients in this program. So that there was a lot of virtual meetings, either through phone or through Microsoft Teams. And I also used an Excel tracker to keep track of all email and phone correspondence. Okay, so I learned a lot throughout the summer, but these are the 4 things that I really want to pinpoint and highlight. So some of my learning outcomes were that I improved upon my ability to work in a fast-paced environment, especially due to the contingency. Of course, I recognized and I learned that there have been many changes toward the organization. So I knew from from day one of the internship that I have a lot of responsibility and that, I would have an integral role in the organization. So I think that helped me sort of really recognize the importance of being present and contributing and making sure that I was always, trying to put my best foot forward. And so this has certainly also strengthened my attention to detail. As I mentioned, there was a lot of my tasks were very writing enhanced, and there was a lot of outreach. And so in these writing tasks and these letters I had to draft, I really had to make sure that that every single word was correct, and just it really, I really had to improve upon my precision. This experience has also enhanced my communication skills. So due to the switch to working from home, we as I mentioned, I met with my supervisors up to 3 times every day, and so that was a really great structure. Enabled me to sort of have a prepared response every time I met with my supervisors, and to organize my thoughts in a way that I could communicate my progress with my supervisors. And lastly, this experience also solidified my interest in working in the nonprofit sector, as in my experience last year with the other organization I volunteered with through the Wilson Center program. And I do hope to be working in the public interest. I'm currently applying to law school, so I'm not exactly sure what field of what sector of law I want to go into, but it's most likely going to be public interest. So just really thank you again for this incredible internship opportunity, to have this experience, amidst a global pandemic, and to be able to directly address the issues that this pandemic has forced us to confront. So as I mentioned, through the Survivor Tree program, and then also through the condolence letters I dropped to people who have died from 9/11 related illnesses, and during this time of the pandemic. I'm also really grateful to have had incredible supervisors who guided me throughout the new work from home adjustment. And my experience working as a government and community affairs intern at the 9/11 Memorial Museum, and my experiences with working with the Wilson Center overall, have had an immeasurable impact on my college experience. And I'm very grateful to have had these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorianne. That was great. We really appreciate you presenting, and obviously your experience this weekend. We're so happy to hear this summer. We're so happy to have heard about it. Next, we have Viha Dutt, and Viha was the intern this summer at the Asian American Federation. Viha, if you could please join us by unmuting and sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Do you have any issues sharing your screen? No, you're good.
Let me see.
And guys, if we could just please be mindful to keep it to 5 minutes presentation max. We want to get through to everyone that's joined us today.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good?
Yeah, I just found it.
Great.
Okay, can you see? Can you all see?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So my name is Viha, and I interned at the Asian American Federation virtually this summer. So the Asian American Federation, or the AAF, is a nonprofit leadership organization that serves the Asian American population in New York City. This includes residents, citizens, children, all sorts of the different Asian communities within New York and Staten Island. And they raise influence through their research, their advocacy, public awareness, and organizational development. And they do this with their member agencies, through the city council members, the government, and other small businesses that they just communicate with. And see, okay, so during the summer, obviously everything was done virtually. So some goals that they had were to support small business owners through COVID-19. And they did this through helping make sure that small business owners had access to PPP, and that they knew how to apply for PPP, and that they got PPP, which is the Payment Protection Program. And they also examined different ways or different policies regarding the changes to PPP and how they could support businesses through that, such as taking in consideration to what people said on what they could do with PPP. And then they also provided culturally competent mental health services through virtual meetings and events to member organizations, and by taking surveys and ensuring that there was an efficient food delivery services for elders, so that they could have that human interaction during COVID-19 that they needed. And they also encouraged residents to participate in the Census 2020 by having virtual sessions in different languages for different residents of the New York State, to make sure that they knew that they should apply for it, to ensure that they could get funding and help for the issues for the next 10 years. So career opportunities at the Asian American Federation that, I had, where I was exposed to the nonprofit, I got to see how, as issues were happening during COVID-19, how they were brought up every single day or every week, and they were discussed, and we discussed a plan to solve those issues and to proceed with those issues. And we discussed the different steps on how to solve them. And it was like, what are the pros and cons to this solution? And we had a lot of discussions, and I got to listen to a lot of them and see how you reach the community and how you talk to the city council members and get the community's ideas into research into the different policies. And along with this, I got to also research the policies and the community. I got to see which areas in New York were most affected for small businesses, and I got to see what new policies were being pushed through by the city council, and to see how they would affect the communities in a positive or negative way. My role, I was the advocacy and policy intern, and I got to learn a lot about the Asian community in New York City, the small businesses and individuals, and what issues they were facing, specifically, mostly through COVID, obviously. And you got to see what they were going through and how to help them and how to engage with them and to survey them. We surveyed them. With the Asian small business, we surveyed them and we researched what they needed to do and what issues they were facing and how to help them, either through providing masks or by providing them mental health services for the owners, or providing them with how to solve these issues through COVID, like how to clean their places or how to interact with others during this time. And we also communicated with the donors, the city council, and other member organizations by making either testimonies or sending drafts or emails discussing about what was going on to help gain their awareness. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Viha. That was great. We really appreciate you sharing that experience with all of us. Next, I'd like to invite Natalie Kim to join us. Natalie was the she was the summer intern at the Billion Oyster Project this summer. Welcome, Natalie. Thanks for joining us. And please feel free to share your screen and then start your presentation.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Here we go. So, like Adrian just said, I was interning at the Billion Oyster Project this summer. So just an overview of the organization. Billion Oyster Project is a 501c3 who aims to restore the oyster population in New York Harbor through public education initiatives. And because of our special circumstances, my internship had to adapt a bit from its original description to accommodate for more remote work. And this was obviously the same for everyone else at the organization. And this was a really big shift for them, since summer is usually the season when the bulk of their field work is done. However, we were able to gather safely later in the summer as New York City entered phases 3 and 4, because field work does require you to be outside, which obviously brings down your risk of exposure a lot. So some of my responsibilities, one of the first tasks that I had to do was to research how to create an outreach and an environmental justice department at the organization. So I was researching how these departments would function, what types of jobs would exist within them, the type of tasks that these departments would undertake, and grants to fund them. In addition to that, I worked a lot on remote content development. Since public education is one of the main goals of BOP, they were really focused on developing remote content for people to be able to enjoy from the safety of their homes. So one of the things that I did was I made a quiz about New York Harbor oyster history, and they featured that on their social media. Another thing I did was I made a video with 2 like at-home science experiments people could do that depict combined sewage overflow. Then I also did some social media posts on their social media, because the person who ran their social media was out for 1 week and she asked me to take over. So that was really cool too. Then, as I mentioned before, we did a lot of field work later in the summer. So we did preparations for oyster reef installations. We actually installed an oyster reef up at Bayswater. We also did oyster monitoring and biodiversity monitoring at their different sites. And we were able to do one day with some student groups, which was really cool. Oh wait, sorry, I forgot to mention the last thing here. I also worked on an independent research project throughout the internship. And this was basically, I got to choose anything I wanted for this. And as long as it aligned with the goals of their organization. So what I chose was to work on developing some learning materials for teaching about environmental justice. And the final project that I turned in and presented to the organization was about 23 pages. And it was comprised of 3 main parts. And the first was topics that are commonly taught with descriptions of how they connect to environmental justice. So these topics were colonialism, the civil rights movement, the Industrial Revolution, the Dust Bowl, and the Vietnam War. So these were about connecting like commonly taught topics with environmental justice to understand how pervasive it is as an issue. The next section was political cartoons that depict environmental justice issues with captions that contextualize the issue. And the third was a discussion of Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Katrina, accompanied by the documentary When the Levees Broke, which was made by Spike Lee in 2006. So I think that this opportunity also provided me with a lot of career development, which I'm really appreciative for. So one thing that I think was really important was that I had like a wide diversity of duties, which means that I got a wide array of valuable experiences that I can then bring to my future job positions. And in addition, I really want to work for a nonprofit after I graduate. So this was really relevant and useful insight into how nonprofits function. And I still have the same goal. So obviously I liked what I saw. And then I also got a lot of experience in the fields of education and marine biology, which was really interesting because I didn't have a lot of prior experience in these fields. So it was kind of like a learn as you go situation, but I really enjoyed this work and I want to look into it more after I graduate. And then lastly, I met some really amazing people working at BOP and I developed good working relationships with them. And I'm glad that when I graduate, I'll have these relationships when I'm trying to find a job. And I hope I'll be able to work with them again someday. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to the Wilson Center for providing me with like a really great experience, especially during a summer where things were not so great. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Natalie. It's awesome that you were able to still be able to get on site and do some of that really fun hands-on work that was originally intended to be probably the bulk of your work. So it's cool that you were still able to have that experience safely, and thank you for sharing that with us today. Next up, I'd like to invite Daisy Rivera. I'm sorry, Catherine Allen. I don't want to mess up the order here. Catherine Allen, the Special Projects Intern at Center for Employment Opportunities. Catherine, if you could unmute your mic and share your screen, please.
Hi, everyone. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to.
Yes, that's right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Allen. I'm a senior at PACE, graduating this December. I'm a Peace and Justice Studies major, and I've been focusing on criminal justice reform through my coursework and my research throughout my time as an undergraduate. And I was privileged to be the Wilson Center summer intern at the Center for Employment Opportunities, also known as CEO, which is what I'll refer to the organization as for the rest of the presentation. So some background, CEO is a national nonprofit with over 500 employees that works with formerly incarcerated folks on job coaching, job placement, and retention all over the country. A little background on the importance of this type of work. The consequences of being incarcerated in the United States do not end after a person is released from prison. Justice-involved folks face extreme barriers to success, one of which is the challenge of finding employment after being stamped with the term felon and after spending a period of time outside of the workforce. Organizations like CEO help offset the harms of incarceration by giving justice-involved people a helping hand in finding and retaining quality jobs. So now on my internship. During my summer at CEO, I interned with the employee experience team, working with special projects and with talent development. I was able to support a variety of projects, but I'd like to highlight two that I led and really valued. First off, I created an inclusive hiring guide with the special projects team. So this required me to review the organization's hiring and recruitment process, from creating a job description all the way to making a final offer. I then created an extensive document recommending a variety of changes and additions to the hiring process to ensure the utmost diversity, equity, and inclusivity. After a lot of research and then writing the policy, I presented the inclusive hiring guide to a number of CEO teams to collect feedback. My guide will, as far as I know, become official policy sometime this fall and serve as a blueprint for hiring manager trainings on inclusive hiring. The second project that I'd like to highlight is a workshop that I created and presented for the talent development team. I was asked to design a workshop on developing a reflective practice. I have a lot of personal experience with this topic, so it was really fun to research the benefits of reflective practice in the context of the workplace. I then hosted a workshop that was open to the whole company, in which I went over reflective practices such as controlled breathing, keeping a work journal, asking reflective questions, and practicing gratitude, and the benefits of such practices like improving working relationships and increased satisfaction with one's job. I really loved getting to connect and share these practices with other CEO employees. So my internship at CEO was a really, really fantastic experience. I was treated as a member of the team and never really brushed aside as an intern. My work, especially the hiring guide, is going to be used by the entire company going forward. So getting to lead its creation from start to finish is a really, really cool and empowering thing for me as an undergraduate. I want to thank Cassidy and Nadra, who are my supervisors and are here with us today, for empowering and supporting me through those projects. And I want to thank the Wilson Center for facilitating this opportunity. I know that I could not have done it without being funded, and I think paid internships are a really important part of leveling the playing field and fostering equity in the college experience. Not all students can afford to take unpaid internships, meaning that really fantastic students often get left out. So thank you, Wilson Center, for fulfilling that need and for working with awesome mission-driven organizations like CEO. After this experience, I feel very affirmed in wanting to work for a criminal justice reform-focused nonprofit, and more prepared than ever to graduate this December and enter the workforce. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. That was awesome. And you had some really great outcomes this summer. That DII project is like huge. That's really, really great. I'm so happy to hear it. And thank you for sharing your feedback with us. Next up, we'd like to invite Daisy Rivera to join the presentation rotation. Daisy was the environmental educator / estuary lab intern at Hudson River Park Trust. Daisy, if you could join by unmuting and sharing your screen.
Hi, everyone. Okay, hello. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I can't see the presentation.
We hear you. I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Daisy, and I interned at Hudson River Park. They ended up merging with the River Project, so that's why they're now Hudson River Park / the River Project. So just a little introduction on myself. I actually am a Ramapo College alum. I graduated with a BS in biology. I am very passionate about wetland and forestry, ecology and conservation. I'm a big hiker. And currently I'm pursuing my environmental policy degree here at Pace. I'm expected to graduate this December, so I'm excited for that. Okay, so Hudson River Park, it's a nonprofit organization. It runs 4 miles along the Manhattan shoreline. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it. Their main goal is to maintain and operate the public park and estuarine sanctuary under the Hudson River Park Act. So some of their main goals is to promote environmental stewardship and enhance the estuary sanctuary through public education research and habitat enhancement. So they also provide free or low cost. Well, as I know of, like the summer, everything was virtual and everything was free since it was online. So they provided free recreational, educational, and cultural opportunities for the public.
I can't, sorry. Okay, so I played a 2-in-1 role. I was an environmental educator / an environmental and estuary lab intern. So I worked with both departments, the environmental science and the education department. So I actually had the opportunity to work half the time in person in the field and remotely from home. So it was 1 to 2 times a week commuting into the city. And when I was working in the office, we did practice important social distancing measures. We always wear a mask, everything like that. Everything was perfect, up to 25% capacity in the office. And majority of the field work I did was getting muddy and dirty, which I didn't mind. I helped with an ongoing fish ecology survey. This is the longest fish ecology survey that's been going on in our area for more than 10 years. It started with the River Project and then they merged, so they continued. They do this every single week. It has to be within a 7-day period, so 1 to 2 times a week. So every time I'd go in, if it was once or twice a week, I would be helping with that. We had 2 types of trap, a bigger one, which was a crab pot, and then a smaller ones to catch like some of the smaller fish, which I have some pictures here of like some of the crabs we caught and some of the species that we caught. And of course, we would re-release them because the lab is not currently open to the public. So we would just catch them and jot down our information, our data for the research, and then release our traps back into the water. So as part of the remote work I did, it was mostly for the education department, and I created, the entire summer was basically me creating educational materials and resources for our virtual summer camp and any other of our virtual programs, because every program they had to go remote. And up to now, I'm pretty sure that everything is still remote. They have some stuff that they're trying to go back into the public, like volunteer opportunities. But as of right now, it was just that. I also assisted with a lot of their social media content. They have an Instagram and a Twitter page, and I assisted helping virtually teach, like via webcam. We used Zoom, so we would have someone logged in on Zoom, or I would help teach. I'd be on camera and someone would be facilitating on Zoom, coordinating the other students. So we would take turns switching around doing that. And how do I click next? Yes, and I just want to say thank you to the Wilson Center for providing me with an opportunity this summer, given these unprecedented times, and the Hudson River Park. I worked with such an amazing team. They were all super helpful. I worked as a team. Like, I didn't feel like an intern, honestly. I was so great. And I got to learn so much about Hudson River that I did not know of. And I got to meet a bunch of these cute little critters. I don't know if you guys saw, but we have seahorses in the Hudson River. It's actually an estuary. So there's much you probably don't even know about the Hudson River. But thank you again.
Thank you, Daisy. That was great. Thank you for sharing your experience and for telling us about the awesome leadership and mentorship you've had at your organization. Sounds like you had a really interesting summer. Thank you. And so next up, we would like to invite Jelena Goldstein to please join the presentation rotation here. Jelena was the Summer Campaign Associate at Control Arms this summer. And Jelena, if you could please unmute your microphone and share your screen, that would be great.
Thank you, Adrian. I just need to click present.
Thanks.
So, hello everyone. I was a summer campaign associate with Control Arms this summer. My name is Jelena Goldstein, and I am a senior economics major with a minor in political science, and I'm a part of the Programmers Honors College. So a little bit about Control Arms organization. Control Arms is a coalition that represents the arms trade treaty to governments and the UN. With a staff of less than a dozen international associates, the group aims to coordinate communication and promote global cooperation in arms proliferation. This summer's efforts have included research, consultation events, and ATT status updates. Here you can see the number of current state parties has just risen over the summer by 2 to 110, as well as we have 31 member signatories. So during my internship with Control Arms, sorry, trying to get that out of the way, I was responsible for reaching out to coalition members. They had over 300 coalition members. I virtually attended team meetings, weekly team meetings, attended partner organizations, presentations on gun reform events, and also attended UN live streams. What was really great about attending the UN live streams is they're open to the public via UN Live TV right now, but it was great to actually be in on a Zoom call at the United Nations or with the United Nations. So that Zoom call was what was being presented to the public. So it was a really great opportunity to be right there, kind of virtually in the room with that group. I also helped primarily day-to-day with projects in organization and publication to share the coalition's effort. No day at Control Arms was ever the same, so it really made it a great summer experience to be all over the place and learn a lot of different areas about NGOs. So here are a few of the projects I worked on. Our main Zoom screenshot in the middle was a first of their virtual consultation events where they reached out to members and helped teach them how to educate different governments on arms proliferation and small arms trade. On the left, you see a flyer that I made for their upcoming event that actually just passed at the end of my internship, where they presented their work on their Arms Trade Treaty Monitor. It was great to really dive in a little bit more creatively and look at graphic design and how non-government organizations present themselves to the public. It was a lot of behind the scenes work and understanding what goes into all this work. And at the bottom, you can see also what became my best friend this summer was one of our Excel databases. As an intern, I went through and helped organize their member outreach. I reached out to maybe 100 international coalition members to make sure that all of their contact information was correct and up to date. I recoded the Excel from what the previous interns had to include these little checkboxes, which was brand new to the organization and really made their system more efficient. And finally, some of the outcomes I can divide into professional, personal, and academic learning experiences. So within professional, as I mentioned, that outreach was a really great way of interacting with international members, getting a feel of how people interact differently through different languages and cultures, and what it's like to reach out to them and what you have to know about their background information to just reach out and say, hi, is this okay? Can we still contact you? Is this still the best way to contact you? Like I said, with the Excel, that was also a great way of getting a little bit more comfortable with Excel, which is certainly helpful going forward in my area. Personally, it was a new experience to work from home, so it taught me a lot about time management and kind of being a little bit more self-sufficient when it came to projects. I checked in with my supervisor maybe about once a day and team meetings about once a week. So it was really learning to use kind of our Slack or our instant messaging service to check in with short projects, but also being aware of what I needed to do and how I could achieve that and kind of trying to answer questions on my own. And finally, within academic outcomes, I learned a lot about how a government organization works and what I could do to behind the scenes and all the work that goes into it, whether it was financially or database or just flyers that went out to the general coalition. It was what goes into making this a public-facing organization. Arm trade, with a focus on arm trade and UN development, I learned about a little bit more about the background in what the Arms Treaty entails and what the UN efforts are to control peace across countries. And so finally, going forward, this summer, I also started a UN practicum, which looks more at sustainable development in the UN, which is kind of a result of really enjoying what I did this summer and seeing how one little tiny organization of 12 people can make such a difference in educating the public or in educating other countries. I'll be working this year as a senior with a thesis moving towards also sustainable development, looking rather at gender equality rather than peace and justice and strong institutions, once again, this is kind of stemming from my work this summer, where we worked a lot with gender-based violence, and looking into areas of that is really something that intrigued me in research, so I'd like to continue that. And it really prepares me to graduate in December into the workforce and look at careers in NGOs or within government. So I just want to say thank you so much to Wilson Center and to Control Arms for offering an internship this summer. It was something that I know even Control Arms wasn't sure if they'd be able to offer, but it was great to see that we could make this work from home and still make it a great learning experience with something productive this summer. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jelena. That was great. Yeah, we were so happy to be able to continue to work with Control Arms this summer. They're a longtime partner of ours, and it was awesome to see that they were able to pivot remotely and you were still able to have this experience. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to invite Lee Bauer to present her learning outcomes. Lee was the program intern at Women Make Movies this summer. Lee, if you could join us by unmuting your mic and sharing your screen, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you can all see that. I think so. Okay, so hi, my name is Lee Bauer. I interned this summer at Women Make Movies. I'm a sophomore double majoring in film and screen studies and communication studies with a minor in women and gender studies. So this internship definitely fit all of my interests. I interned from home in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I definitely had to adjust to the time difference, but it was totally worth it. And that's my dog Toby, who we adopted about a week or so before my internship, so he would come visit me and say hi at staff meetings and stuff. So Women Make Movies was founded in 1972. They're the leading distributor for films made by and about women, and their goal is to really just amplify historically unrecognized voices. Women Make Movies supported films and filmmakers have been recognized by the Emmys, the Peabodys, the Oscars. They've been featured at Sundance Film Festival and a lot of other major film festivals. They're only a staff of 9 women, which I think is crazy awesome for all the work that they do and the amount of work that they do. And they send films to film festivals, they market films, they provide production assistance, but because they're a distribution company, they don't actually get involved with the making of the films. So as an intern, I focused on marketing 3 different Women Make Movies films with quotes of endorsement and outreach. These are the 3 films I worked on. The first is The R Word, which is a documentary about the intellectually disabled community. The middle one is Marceline, A Woman, a Century, which is about a Holocaust survivor and French filmmaker. I connected to this one a lot because my grandfather is also a Holocaust survivor. And then the third film I worked on is called Fatitude, and it's about body image representation in media. And I got to watch them all, and it was really fun. And these are all the graphics that I made for social media. So as an intern, kind of the main thing that I did for marketing was researching professors and organizations in fields related to the films to get quotes of endorsement and promote the films for screenings. So I used Excel, which you can see, and organized all this contact information and data. We would get contact information for professors so we could email them and ask if they'd watch the film and provide a quote of endorsement. We would also research organizations who might be interested in doing screenings of the films. And we also looked at influencers and blogs and podcasts who might be able to promote the film to their followers. So professors, reaching out to professors turned into these quotes of endorsement, which are basically quotes just saying how great the film is and encouraging people to watch it, host screenings, use it as educational tools in their classes. This is an actual quote of endorsement that my research and contacting turned into. It's for Marceline, and you can actually see it on their website under the catalog listing for the film, which I think is pretty cool. So the other main thing that I did was I created these ambassador pages on WordPress, which we would send out to professors and anyone who helped with promoting to basically help them and ask them to do extra outreach for us and help us promote the films. So this is one that I made for Fatitude. I wrote all the HTML in WordPress to put in the trailer and the text and the graphics and the tweets. And I wrote all the tweets and I wrote all the copy and I made all the graphics and put it together in WordPress. And I did it for all 3 of the films. So this summer, I really gained and improved a lot of skills in WordPress and HTML, which I only had a little bit of experience with. I got to work with MailChimp for the first time, which was really fun and interesting. And I worked a lot and improved my skills with Microsoft Office because that was kind of our main way of sharing documents. I learned a lot more about the distribution aspect of the film industry, which I didn't really know too much about. So that was really interesting for me to see. I learned how to write more informative social media posts for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I got to experience a remote work environment with completely virtual communication, which was definitely, we had to adapt in a lot of different ways, especially when like troubleshooting our HTML code or anything like that. And it's still kind of weird to me that I haven't met anyone that I've worked with in person yet. But I still feel like I really know them with our weekly staff meetings we would have, and we would check in through through Microsoft Teams and all that. And then finally, I really improved my organization skills when it came to logging and organizing all my research that I did. So thank you so much to Women Make Movies and the Wilson Center for giving me this opportunity. I was really privileged and fortunate enough to be able to have an internship this summer, especially one that was paid during the pandemic. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Lee. That sounds like a great experience. And we too are very thankful to our funders and our partners that were able to continue to pivot and work with us this summer to continue to give our students these experiences. Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you had a wonderful internship. Next up, we'd like to invite Janina Riley. Janina, if you could please join us. She was the program intern at Expanded Schools this summer. And if you can please unmute your mic and share your screen, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Can you hear me okay? And everyone can see my screen? Okay, awesome. Hi everyone, my name is Janina Riley and I'm a senior political science major with a minor in environmental art and social practice. I'm set to graduate May 2021. So first I would like to say thank you to the Wilson Center for Social Entrepreneurship for giving me this opportunity, and this is my intended learning outcomes presentation. First and foremost, who am I? Who is Janina Riley? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my interests and passions, and how do they inform my future plans? So before applying to this internship, I knew a couple things about myself. Those include the fact that I am an artist and a creative. My medium is visual arts with a background in theater and photography. I really love social justice and teaching people, which I just learned about myself towards the end of the beginning of the internship. I am from Philly, and I was a part of the public school system for a majority of my education. And I'm passionate about global change as well as racial equity across settings. But prior to this internship, I couldn't necessarily identify my strengths and my weaknesses. And because of that, I didn't know how that informed my future plans or my projects. I just knew that I wanted to impact people and I wanted it to be sustainable. But what can I do with this knowledge, and why exactly does it matter? So, segueing from that into the actual internship, what is Expanded Schools? So Expanded Schools is a nonprofit organization that works towards advancing enriching educational opportunities. And that is within elementary school, middle school, and the high school level, as well as amongst educators. They exalt literacy and comprehension skills through play, exploration, professional development, curriculum building, and by paramounting social and emotional learning. It is a citywide system of quality after-school programming. It's publicly and privately funded, and they also exalt racial equity and redefinition in education, especially in underserved communities. So Expanded Schools has various programs throughout the organization, as previously mentioned, but I worked in the literacy sector. So I worked with the Ready Readers program, which is between K through 3rd grade, and the Rising Readers program, which is middle school. I worked, in addition to the tasks that I will get into in the next slide, I worked on an independent project where I had the opportunity to present it to the entire organization. I corresponded with partners, and I was tasked with leading meetings that discussed plans moving forward for the Ready Readers and Rising Readers programs. I also met with department heads throughout the organization in order to understand their roles more clearly, because I've never taken a organizational structure nonprofit course, so I didn't necessarily know how nonprofits worked outside of the very little information I had prior to this experience. So I met with a lot of department heads to really understand that and grasp that concept. And then the independent project I will glaze over in a couple of slides. But through all of these very briefly mentioned experience, I was able to build significant relationships with the entire staff by the end of my internship. So these are some images of the things that I've done and the things that I've worked on. So I created a book audit for the selection of books in the entire Ready Readers Expanded library. So you can see through here and here, I worked really closely with Excel with this book audit, as well as through my recruitment tasks. Now moving into recruitment, I co-led the recruitment process throughout this summer. So reaching out to partners for the upcoming academic year, finding schools and site locations where we can implement the programs into their curriculum. I participated in social and emotional learning workshops, and I also assisted with building curriculums for the Ready Readers programs. Through all of these tasks, I used Outlook, Excel, Microsoft Teams, Slack, and now I have experience with grant and proposal writing, as well as working with individual project deadlines as a result of my independent project. I now understand the relationship between policy, council committees, and money flow, which, as we all know, is extremely important when working in the nonprofit sector. And that was the result of meeting with all the department heads and working really closely with my team. I really did not feel like an intern throughout the life of my internship. I felt like I was an employee, and I've been working with these people for a very long time. And then these are 3 of the books that were in the selection, which are very intersectional books and touch on topics that are really important for, really important for children to kind of be introduced to at a young age. So now that I touched on some of my tasks, I would like to first start with some of the downfalls and my personal impact with working with Expand Ed. So through this, I realized that I needed help navigating feedback and asking for feedback and working with constructive criticism. So if you don't know what the Siegel effect is, I would definitely suggest looking into that. I apologize for my background. My outside is really loud. I would definitely suggest looking into the Siegel effect, because that was really cool and beneficial. By working really closely with Joel and Terrelyn, they were my supervisors, I understood kind of this idea of stakes, low versus high, like the difference between urgent and important in terms of tasks, and really adhering to my own deadlines as well as deadlines I was given. We worked really closely with the leadership compass, so identifying my strengths and weaknesses, and I realized I am much more of a creative person than I give myself credit for, even though I do consider myself an artist, but neither here nor there. It highlighted an invincibility complex that I have with my work. So kind of understanding the level of work and the amount of work that I take on in one specific environment, and then figuring out how much to put into each of these individual projects. And again, adhering to personal deliverable benchmark deadlines was also really beneficial. Again, some of the passions and interests. By the end of the internship, I realized that I really do enjoy and I really do value the lesson planning skills that I've acquired because I built curriculums. I worked really closely with critical thinking and comprehension question formation, because it was about adapting material for the youth and finding books that would be helpful and beneficial for children that also communicated the messages that we wanted them to communicate, which pushed me to pay a lot of attention to the details of everything. The details were very, very significant. And that was something that I definitely had to keep going back over throughout my internship, which can be very frustrating, but I found a lot of comfort in that because I had such a supportive team. And then finally, I learned, I gained a wider understanding of the interconnectedness of lesson plans and the overall organizational structure of a nonprofit. So now that I kind of touched on that, I would like to mention the project that I worked on in the internship. I created a unit that discussed anti-Black racism, colorism, and race-based discrimination, and then tried to figure out how to adapt this to introduce it to young children. So the goal was to introduce colorism in film and advertisements, to identify and explore anti-dark skin rhetoric in film and advertisements, to deconstruct colorism briefly and explain influences, and allow students to create a toolbox that will frame their identity. Sorry, it keeps freezing. So the intended age group was between 4th and 6th grade, and here were the objectives. This is actually a slide from the presentation that I presented to the entire team. So I won't go through this again, but this was a slide from that. Some of the challenges with this project and with the overall internship was, again, paying attention to the details. So how to decipher anti-Black racism versus colorism. I created and compiled relatable content to give to the students. And I also had to make sure I was protecting and prioritizing the safety of the students. So a lot of my insight came from crafting the language, figuring out the potential outcomes as a result of this project, and then understanding the various components of the unit. So this is another slide from the presentation, which I won't go too in depth with, because I do have a link at the end where I can give it to anyone if you would like to look at it more in depth, because I don't need to go into all of this. But I will say that it was really beneficial to kind of present this, or it was really fulfilling to present this to the entire team. And I would like to also say thank you to my supervisors, as well as Nasrame and Adrian, for assisting with the project and coming to view the project and seeing kind of the culmination of everything that I learned from the tasks assigned and the independent project I had the opportunity to complete. Thank you to Expanded Schools, as well as the Wilson Center.
Thank you. It sounds like you had a really productive, very impactful summer internship. So I really appreciate it. It was great to hear your presentation, and maybe you could drop the link into the chat if you want, if you're open to it. Yeah? Sorry, okay, I can't hear you, so I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yes, I keep doing that, yes.
Okay, awesome, great, thank you, thank you. Nick, thank you again, Janina, really appreciate it. We'd like to invite Carter Boyd to please join us for his presentation. Carter was the advocacy intern at the Global Policy Forum this summer. Carter, if you could unmute your mic and share your screen, that would be great. Thank you.
Everybody can see it, good, and you can hear me, awesome. Hi, my name is Carter. I am a senior studying poli-sci and philosophy with a minor in criminal justice. And this summer I was the advocacy intern at the Global Policy Forum / the Global Policy Watch. The Global Policy Forum is an ECOSOC accredited non-governmental organization that kind of serves as an independent policy watchdog organization to monitor several facets of the UN, specifically sustainable development, as well as changes within the United Nations system as a whole. One of our main functions is to distribute information from several meetings and discussions to various NGOs, CSOs, member states, and members of the UN staff throughout our different forums, and specifically the Global Policy Watch program that we use. The Global Policy Watch program is kind of a group of CSOs, NGOs, member states, etc., in specifically the Global South, where we have one of our teams located. So I was the advocacy intern, and a lot of my roles and responsibilities stemmed from the extensive amounts of UN meetings that I attended for research. So my day-to-day really looked like attending, a Monday meeting with my supervisor, Elena. Hi, Elena. And doing weekly meetings with our New York team, and then monthly meetings with our teams in Bonn, Germany, and in South America, and then going to a bunch of different UN meetings back to back, just to gather research, collect content for our social media pages, as well as our various different publications. So we did focus a lot on financing for development, systemic changes within the UN, inclusive and sustainable development, because what typically happens is sustainable development is not always sustainable for everybody. And I focused a lot on digitalization this year. I was present in a lot of virtual meetings for the SG's launch of the digital roadmap. Fabrizio, the special advisor to Antonio Gutierrez, saw a lot of me this summer in those meetings, and we've become quite acquainted. I also was tasked with monitoring the high-level political forum and distributing meeting information to lots of our CSO members in the Global Policy Watch community. I participated in a lot of meetings, and I assisted in providing content for publications and articles. I really worked in a role to support, my team, as well as had the opportunity to write a lot of my own publications and serve as somewhat of our social media content provider for the summer. So just a little overview of what the High Level Political Forum is. It's an international meeting for everybody to come together and discuss their personal or their country's personal development in the sustainable development area, achieving the sustainable development goals. This is kind of what our week looked like, our 2 weeks. It is a 14-day program from, 7:45 some days to, 4 or 5 every other day, where 47 nations had the opportunity to present their voluntary national reviews, which was my job to really overview and watch and take down specific advancements or shortfalls that a lot of these nations had experienced in the past couple of years. My learning outcomes for this opportunity was, the first one was a really big one, is that what I'm learning about in school, class, and what I'm reading about in the news is real. It's really easy for people to recognize and say, oh, wow, this is happening in Barbados, or Seychelles is losing miles of coastline every year due to global warming, etc., but never actually grasp it and understand it. And it was really, eye-opening to have conversations with the delegates from Barbados and, a lot of small island developing states, and understand exactly what's going on in those countries when it comes to, global warming, waters rising, erosion, etc. I also learned a lot about the UN system and how it seriously needs some updates, especially in this online format. The UN is not very user-friendly and not very conducive to public participation, as much as it is really making strides to be so. So a lot that I focused on this summer was advising our team and some members at the UN of what they need to do to improve their systems, their working methods, etc., so that not only member states in the global south that do not have the digital capacities that we do can participate, but also they can branch their audience out towards more academic pursuits. I also learned that words have a lot of meaning and are very, very, very important when it comes to matters of international affairs. I was in charge of following the UN 75 declaration that was supposed to kick off the entirety of the UN 75th General Assembly this year, which starts the 24th. And that had to go through several revisions because some of the language was too similar to international climate change stances, which really offset some very large carbon emitters, and they voted against it. So it went through several different things, but finally was passed. And I also learned that a lot of people do not actually understand the UN. I think something that's really important with every internship opportunity as well as educational opportunity is using what you learn and what you experience to teach others and talk to others. So through various communications with my family, I've learned that a lot of people really do not know exactly what goes on at the UN, what they do. And I think that goes back to the fact that they are not as user-friendly as they should be, and that they have a lot of growth in that area. And I just wanted to say a thank you to, Elena, my supervisor, as well as the Wilson Center. I wouldn't have been able to do this this opportunity if it wasn't paid. You know, reiterating what Kat said earlier, you know, paid internships are a serious way to bridge the economic divide and definitely need to be more widespread. And here are just some of the projects that I worked on throughout my time at the internship. So thank you.
Thank you, Carter. Really appreciate hearing from you, and it sounds like you had some really impactful outcomes. It's really awesome to see those publications with your name on them. That's pretty nice. So congratulations and good luck with your fall semester. Thank you again for sharing your experience. Last but not least, we'd like to invite Kelly Wong to please share her internship experience with us this summer. Kelly was the information research intern at College Money Matters. Kelly, if you can share, oh, I see you're sharing your screen, and feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Yep, and I'll be rushing it a little bit because I'm supposed to be in class right now.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, please go ahead.
That's all right, so yeah, I'm gonna be rushing just a little bit. So yeah, I was an information research intern, like Adrian said, at College Money Matters. There's with Nancy Goodman, so, and she's also in the Zoom call as well, so hi again, Nancy. So a little bit about me is I am a senior pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Biology, tentatively to graduate in spring 2021. I'm a museum educator at the New York Hall of Science, and I used to work at the American Museum of Natural History as a museum educator. I am hoping to, in my future career, I'm hoping to pursue museum education or going into grad school to pursue research, but I will see on that. I'm not sure yet. And so yeah, this is just like some photos of what's been going on the one with me at the computer picture is what I was mainly doing this summer, since this was an online internship since. So a little bit about College Money Matters. It was an organization, it's an organization, nonprofit, that started in 2018. And the idea was developed by Nancy after she was coaching a young woman who's going through the college admission / financial aid process. And she realized how confusing it was like the whole process. So that's when she decided to create College Money Matters, which aims to educate high school students about loans and like both private and federal loans, and how to apply and what to keep in mind of when you apply for loans. And she is actually renovating this or reprogramming the whole website. So you can, so after October 1st, hopefully when it's live, you can go to collegemoneymatters.org if any of you are curious. So my task as an information research intern, it was mainly online. I used different websites called the Foundation Directory Online. And I also used GuideStar and did candidate learning to look up different foundations that would fund College Money Matters, since it's non-profit and we need funders. So what I earned was different foundations definitely had different requirements, and also that a lot of the foundations are very picky in what they are looking for. So it definitely took a lot of time to go through all the different foundations. Here are some on the screen that I was looking at that actually satisfied College Money Matters, and Nancy also sent me different foundations on Excel sheets that I also had to sort through. And so I also used the Foundation Directory and GuideStar to look for those very certain foundations, and then I just sorted them out. And I also earned through this internship was about how intricate grant funding processes are, and especially after I took a writing webinar class about how to write a grant proposal, it just gave me more appreciation on how hard people have to work to be able to get grants. So I will definitely be taking that with me in further my future endeavors once I start, if I go into research, because I know I will need grants for that. And yeah, so, but I will thank you so much to Adrian, Rebecca, and Nancy for the summer experience that you guys gave me. To me, it wasn't an internship. It definitely felt more like a full-time job to me, which I don't mind. I love the experience, and it was a good summer. Even though it was remote, it was good. And
thank you, Kelly. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Thank you to all who joined us today, and thank you for all your presentations from all the interns. Just a little closing note or video rather. I'd like to share this last video before we wrap up.
So it was really useful to be in the major that I'm currently in and do this internship, because not only do I learn about it, but I'm seeing it in actuality.
And I'm like, this has been so good. Like, I've had other internships where I've felt like an intern, and it's like, oh, what can I give you to do today? And this has really felt like I'm just another person at the company with my own projects, you know, so.
My title is Environmental Educator / Estuary Lab Intern. So I help develop a lot of their curriculum. So they have all their programs removed virtual.
I really gained like a well-rounded understanding of like funding and how Expand Ed receives their funding and who makes these decisions. And that's not something that I knew. Like how does a nonprofit work? And that was one of my biggest things coming into the space, because I graduate in a year. So it's like, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to do this? Is this where I want to be?
First semester, I took a women's studies class called The Girl Child, and I think gave me a new interest in, you know, the kind of films that they produce, because
one of my goals has always been to work in a nonprofit. So it's been really interesting seeing all the sort of inner workings of that type of organization.
I know expressed to y'all the sort of uncertainty that I had with the going remote. As excited as I was to start this internship, I was really unsure about what that would look like, but it's been really, really enriching regardless of the circumstances. So I'm really grateful for that I still had this experience given everything that's going on.
Both of you, and thank you so much to the Wilson Center and PACE for always providing us with really great interns. I think we've had this partnership on and off for the past 4 years or so, 5.